Ladies and gentlemen of Knucklehead Nation, welcome to another episode of the hottest fight podcast in the game, the FightersRep podcast. And I'm here and I'm joined by none other than a guy who, whether you like him or not, this guy's slowly turning into a legend. I'm just saying, at FightersRep in the kickboxing scene. None other than Raging, Coach Raging. How are you? Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
You are doing great. I don't know about in your personal life. I'm sure you're doing great there. You always seem to be winning. That's all I'm going to say about that. But at the FightersRep events, man, you're just winning, man. You're just winning, and for the people that don't really, look, people watching this, they understand what FightersRep's about. But for the people that don't, it's not easy to win consistently, and I hate to sit up here and be the boss, kind of, the promoter in charge, because I feel like a little bit of an asshole, Rage, saying that it's not easy to win at FightersRep. But it really is just, it's not easy to win at FightersRep.
That's true. That's true. The matchmaking is exemplar. It's outstanding. How well the matches are, how close the matches are. So it's not easy to win. It should be easy to win. It's not boxing.
It really isn't.
We don't know. And I joke, but I'm not joking. We don't have an A side, B side, where boxing is pretty much set up that way for most of their promotions. MMA is doing that a little bit too. It's not so much A side, B side, but there is like a lot of favoritism, a lot of politics in MMA. FightersRep, there's none of that. You train, and the best fighter wins. So.
I love it, and that's exactly what I do want to say that, like, I really respect, although he gets a lot of crap. I do respect how Dana matches the fighters with the UFC. I feel like we always get the best fights in the UFC. I'll say that about them, and I do strive for something like that, right? Where just the best guys just constantly fight each other and get better and level up, level up.
Yeah. The UFC does a good job. But we're not here to talk about them.
Right. We're here to talk about us. We're here to talk about us, and we're here to talk about you. Obviously, a couple of reasons I wanted you on this episode, Coach Rage. First and foremost, tickets go on sale tomorrow.
Hey, when and how are we in October already? Like, I turn around, it's October. I'm like, what?
I know.
It just went so fast. Like, didn't we just fight? I mean, I feel like we just fought. Now it's October.
And it's just fight camp after fight camp after fight camp for you guys, I'm sure. And it's kind of the same for me, right? Prep after prep after prep. It's just another FightersRep after another one. And,
tickets go on sale.
Tickets on sale for FightersRep 16 tomorrow, guys, at FightersRep.com. If you can't make it, which is absolutely absurd because we've got an entire hotel casino situation, you can come spend the night with us. Extremely reasonable price. But if you can't make it, then you could live stream it right here on YouTube by joining the channel. So we ask that you subscribe and join the channel. And Coach Rage is obviously an integral part of all this because him, along with his, co-coach, Joseph Claycomb, who's in the chat, bringing that EYR division, Claycomb Karate Academy flavor back to FightersRep for, I don't know, the nth consecutive time, and you're on the main event, Coach Rage. You guys are the main event and the co-main event.
Yeah,
and the co-main event. You guys are fighting for the light cruiserweight title again in an insane rematch. I mean, if you're Rage, I'm gonna let you explain it. I mean, how can you miss the rematch if you call yourself a fight fan between Cameron Spencer and Raymond Martinez? How do you do that if you're a fight fan? You don't come to that fight.
Impossible. Impossible to miss. I mean, here's
You
here's the
don't do
thing.
it.
The first fight was back and forth, slugfest, no steps back, out for blood. And both fighters said it. It's not going 5 rounds. It's not going the distance. Someone's going down. And Raymond and I came out, and Joseph came out on top in that fight. But here's the thing: they're both amateurs. They're both still young. So the exciting thing about amateurs is that whoever you fought 3 months ago is not the same guy. The learning curve is so steep and so fast and so rapid. The athletic development, the skill development, fighters are completely different. So whoever you fought 2 months ago, 3 months ago, completely different beast stepping into the ring. So listen, the other thing I have to say, Cameron, tough guy, great athlete, warrior, steps forward, pressure fighter. Raymond Solo Martinez, if you guys don't know who he is, I don't know where you've been. Killer, knockout artist, machine. They are both training, getting better, and they're going to bring it. But what I wanted to say is Hard Knocks, the gym that Cameron is out of.
Hard works.
Hard works. My bad. Hard works. Sorry, Hung. Hard works.
Hard work.
They've got a great lineage as far as the coaching staff and who they train with and where they train, who they know and who they work with. Their team did everything right preparing for us last time, and I know they're going to do everything right to prepare for us this time. So it's going to be a great fight. It's going to be a great fight.
It's the first one was absolutely nuts. I think they were both, I want to say that they were both so amped to fight each other that it was maybe a little bit less technical than I thought it was. And it just turned into like a wild kind of firefight. I mean, obviously there is technique. They're both they just have it ingrained in them. They were both doing, some nice stuff in there. But these two were so amped up to fight each other. There's a belt on the line. They were so amped up to represent for their team, for themselves, and the mentality rage, right? The mentality on both of these guys, right? I already knew what Raymond Martinez had up here. I like to think I know. I'm sure there's layers to it that I haven't seen. I'm sure there's layers.
You can still sleep at night, right?
Yeah.
And you've only seen part of it.
No. I mean, for all those, for all the fight fans out there, this kid he's just really one of those type of kids, and he's just not going to stop. He's just not going to stop until you splatter or until he's gone, and that's kind of Raymond Martinez's mentality. A lot of people talk about it. Right. I want to say that maybe 1% of the people that talk about it or less are actually it. Raymond Martinez is actually it. The fantastic part about that fight, though, was we also got to see, because they're both quiet guys for the most part. For the most part. They're not like braggadocious. There's a little bravado. They're tough guys, but they're not loud guys. But we got to see Cameron's personality in that fight as well. And it turns out that he's also not going to stop till you kill him. So, two guys fighting, cutting down 185 pounds, essentially stepping into the ring, probably somewhere close to heavyweight. Both got speed, both got power, both explosive, both are not going to stop, both have a complete warrior mentality. And it becomes a situation where, for me, and I thought this was going to happen in the first fight, and it did, it's whoever's going to land that big shot. It's whoever's going to land that big shot and maybe put the other guy away, because they both got chins on them too. I saw Raymond take some hellacious shots in that fight as well and keep going. So This rematch, Coach Rage, as you could tell by the way I'm talking about it, I am absolutely pumped for this rematch, man. This is the most worthy a main event as a main event can be.
The other thing I want to point out, you were saying a lot of people talk about, oh, you got to kill me. You got to, they talk the talk, but then when it comes time to fight the fight, they don't walk the walk, right? I think in Fighters Rep, the way it's structured, where we're located, the gyms that are involved, our percentage of real fighters is actually much higher than 1% in Fighters Rep. But if we look at fighting as a whole, yeah, a lot of people talk and not everyone is actually that. But the roster and the talent pool for Fighters Rep, because of everything that I mentioned, the gyms involved and being in Southern California, man, it's just a wall of killers. And we're at the top right now.
And you've got Raymond Martinez, so kudos to you and Joseph Claycomb. I mean, you guys kind of, I don't want to say you came out of nowhere because you've been at this for a very long time, Rage, but independently
Yeah.
doing your own thing and you and Joseph teaming up, this is kind of a new thing.
Kind of. Yeah.
You and Joseph teaming up, bringing your superpowers together, colliding to create this, crazy Marvel universe that we've got going on December 3rd. And it's not just Raymond as the main event. I got to give you guys credit. Michael Claycomb as the co-main event, who went out there in his last fight and who I could only describe to his father. And you tell me what you think about this, Coach Rage, as an assassin. I mean, the guy was an assassin in that last fight.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Plain and simple. I mean, just went out there, spinning back kick to the liver 10 seconds in, and this fight was over. I mean, what came over that kid? What's come over these kids on your team to make them that, vicious, basically?
Yeah. It's a culture. It's an expectation. A lot of people, like you said, they talk, but then deliver. And talking and doing, well, when what you say matches what you do, that's integrity. And so, Claycomb Karate is a traditional karate dojo. It's not a gym. And on his wall, he has words written: honor, spirit, character, integrity. Um, and we take all those to heart. And what that does, it enables Shihan Joseph and I to give even more. Because when you give to somebody that has integrity and loyalty and honor, you can give them everything. You don't have to hold back and worry, well, are they going to abuse this? So there's mental and spirit training that that are thousands of years old, that go back to samurai sword fighting. And we bring that into modern day. So the thing is, it's we're not, yeah, we're in a sport, but we're not competing in a sport. We're fighting. And when you fight, one person wins, one person loses. So if it goes to the judges, I've always said, one bell, finish your fights. If it goes to the judges, it's a decision win is so close to a decision loss. I'm unhappy with that, right? Our job is to finish the fight. And that sounds like a lot of talk, but we are now embodying it. And that is the expectation, that we finish the fight. And in kickboxing, that means we win by knockout.
I mean, just
And we're going to be cornering one more fighter on that card also.
another guy I can't wait to
Yeah,
see. Another
yeah.
guy I can't wait to see.
So
Dylan Ludwig.
on Fighters Rep 15, we had 2 knockouts, 1 belt. We're on 16. We're going to have 3 knockouts, 2 belts.
Wow. Quite the prediction. Quite the prediction. I love it. I love it. Joseph Claycomb drops in the chat and said, and by the way, guys, anything you want to, ask Coach Rage or comment on, feel free to drop it in the chat. Joseph Claycomb says, Iken Hitsatsu, which I believe translates into 1 strike, 1 death, right there on your screen. Appreciate you, Shihan Joseph, also known as Ippon.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And
Coach Rage, I had to ask you. Go ahead, and then I'm going to ask you a question.
That's more of the mindset, the spirit training, and the mental training with that strong tradition that gets misrepresented and misunderstood. But when it comes from an authentic source, you get authentic results.
Yeah. And I want to say, I'm not trying to be biased here, but I want to say that Joseph, having basically been raised in Bahrain, right, and practiced karate in Bahrain, probably knows a thing or two about keeping tradition alive. Tradition is very important, obviously, to the Middle Eastern culture. And I love that he's been able to preserve, I guess what would be the roots of those, those Japanese martial arts and karate and everything like that, and bring it into your team. And you guys are kind of, melding it together. And, your own one bell style, I think, is also very, very similar.
This thing happens all the time where I'll start talking and talking about my experience and my perspective, my philosophy, and talk about things like the one bell, and then Shihan Claycomb will say something in Japanese, which is the karate or Japanese version of exactly what I'm saying. Right. And I'm sitting here thinking that I'm like unique and original, and it's like, oh no, by the way, that's 3,000 years old, and we call that Kaizen, or we call so.
And for me, Rage, I guess I was a bit of a a late bloomer in martial arts, you could say, because I think it was, I had friends and family and stuff, and did a little bit of training, but I had friends in karate and taekwondo and stuff. And I remember it wasn't until law school that I heard I became friends with a karate, I guess, master or Shihan or something like the equivalent of what Joseph was. And he basically explained to me, like, the whole point is to just finish this fight with one shot, like just finish your opponent off. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. And so I also see that, even with being not as, I guess, technically advanced in the history of karate and everything like that, I also see that that overlap between your philosophy and karate philosophy and the one that guides Joseph. What I wanted to ask you, Coach Ray, is you've been at this a very long time. You're a veteran, MMA champions. You've created now kickboxing champions. You've been involved with boxers, I'm sure, at the championship level as well. I know I even saw you the other day. I was watching a flashback of Andy Ruiz's fight with Joe Hanks. I saw you cornering Joe Hanks in that fight. I was like, oh shit, there's Rage right there. So,
in Macau, China. Yeah.
There you go.
That was a trip.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That was oh man. That was a rough trip. But
I wanted you to tell me about that. But hold that thought for me for a second. My question is, though, you've been at this for a very long time.
Yeah.
Where did that night on September 3rd, with Raymond doing what he did and Michael Claycomb doing what he did, where did that night rank for you as a coach in your combat sports history, if at all, if it even ranks? I just wanted to ask, like, Was it as memorable for you, as it was for me? Because I thought to myself, I mean, these guys are having the night of their life right now. I mean, this is ridiculous. Two knockouts, a belt, the fashion that the knockouts happened in, the
Yeah,
dramatics, the
yeah.
big screen and people watching Michael land the kick in slow motion and the whole audience going, "Oh." I just wanted to know where it sat on Rage's kind of list of memorable nights in the fight game.
I really haven't even thought about it that way. Um, it's going to be up there, obviously, uh, but it's one of those things where it's like it's happening, and it's like, right, this is how this is supposed to happen. Now this is in place. Now we can get back to work and get that in place. So, yeah, that's maybe one of my character flaws is I don't actually take enough time to celebrate and reflect and uh, appreciate, I guess. But
I'm
yeah, it's
giving
up
you
there.
that
It's
I'm giving you that
there we
opportunity right
there we
now.
go. Right? Yeah, because it was it was a great night. It was like it was a learning experience in some areas that we needed to learn. We as a team, we as young amateur athletes, um, because fighting is such an individual sport, the individual has to learn. So are there some things that Raymond and Michael had to experience to get it? And now they can go and make those adjustments. And this happens all the time. You can explain something about fighting perfectly. But until you experience it, you think you understand it, but then you experience it and you're like, oh, that's the sound of one hand clapping. Okay. So, little Zen reference there. Hope some of you like it. Uh, so yeah, it was a great night for growth, learning, and uh, finishing the fights, getting the knockouts. Claycomb's 12-second victory. Yeah, that was all fantastic. And I feel like I didn't talk about Michael enough. Uh, we started talking about him growing into the Terminator, the assassin. Um, you guys haven't seen anything yet. What this kid possesses, and see, now we've got this group dynamic going on, right? Where Raymond gets a knockout, Michael has to get a knockout. Raymond gets a belt, Michael has to get a belt, and then on and on and on and on. But the angles and variety that Michael Claycomb has, we haven't seen. We haven't seen what we just got a glimmer of what this kid can do. And for him, it's learning the mental game, the aggression, the focus, and so again, Michael and Raymond working together has been perfect. Some of Michael's strengths were some areas that Raymond can use work on, and vice versa. Raymond's a fighter; he's a born warrior. Uh, being with that, around that, and then having Shihan and I holding the space for it, really allowed Michael to grow into, oh, that's how we do it. And I don't know if it was on your podcast, or I think it was on your podcast, where he figured out the mental game and started using the old samurai mindset. And what got in his way before was nerves, anxiety, performance anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Well, Michael's always brings the biggest crowd. So that's a lot of people. And that's a lot of pressure on a young guy. So he's starting to figure out the brain space for dealing with that. And
Yeah.
yeah, nothing. Yeah, good things coming. Yeah, we've had a great, and I just want to say thank you for having Fighters Rep and creating that space for us to be able to grow and show what we can do. The rule sets for Fighters Rep is really one of the best rule sets for striking, for just striking, right? You got to be really skilled and talented to be able to strike and not interrupt with the clinch, not hold off, not sorry. Yeah, not delay the fight, not hold back the action. With the rule set for Fighters Rep, it's action and pressure. And our last event, we had 9 knockouts. So about 50% of the fights ended in knockout. And that's an amateur event. That is not normal, but that's because of the rule set. That's because of the talent pool. And we've got a bunch of killers, and we're here to get better. We're here in the spirit of Kaizen to always improve and grow. And I know that Fighters Rep is also in that space too, where I know that you're looking at world domination. You want to be the best kickboxing, the best striking promotion in the universe, but we got to start with the planet Earth. And, we're halfway there. So
much appreciated, Coach Rage. And absolutely. I'm like you guys. I try to say I'm like you guys. I'm always trying to step it up, make it better. Obviously, it's not just for myself. It's for you guys. It's for our fans. Speaking of which, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like, comment, share if you're watching this afterwards. Put your comments below for Coach Rage. And follow Coach Rage as well. Don't just follow us on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and everything else. Follow Coach Rage. Where do they follow you, Coach Rage? On Instagram and YouTube, because I know you got a YouTube channel too.
Yeah. If you just type in my name, my last name is Ng, spelled NG. So it's RAGENG. Search that, look for This Ugly Mug, and that'll be my my YouTube channel. Instagram, put the word the or the in front of it, The Raging. That's me. Yeah.
And there it is right on the screen, Rage NG. That's where you can find Coach Rage. Joseph Claycomb, before we continue, says, let's not forget Rage is 17-0, undefeated and no holds barred MMA. He is too humble. That is kind of the world that Coach Rage came from. For all of those that don't know, he was fighting MMA fights when they were not legal, and there were like no rules, and people were just like probably gouging each other's eyeballs out, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So,
yeah. Well, I don't know about oh man, see,
you're good.
Black helicopters had to interfere with our stream once we started talking about illegal underground MMA.
So now I'm curious. Before we go on, because I did want to talk to you about Headgear, because you recently made a video on your YouTube about it.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about the trip to Macau to fight Andy Ruiz.
Okay. I don't. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know my computer is doing.
No problem.
So, man, that was one of those trips where, it was just Murphy's Law. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. We were technically, it was the other promoter's fight. So Andy was with Bob Arum. And so, we were the opponent. We were expected to lose. We should have that fight, but we did. All kinds of flight issues, hotel issues, food issues. When Joe usually fights, he is shredded at 245, 250. And for this fight, he was 235 because we didn't get the food. The meal prep, we brought half, and then the other half was supposed to come with a team member. Got seized at customs.
Oh man.
And yeah, so we had it was rough. But yeah, so it was just, and it was China, it was Macau. So uh, man, we were at the Venetian in Macau, which is looks a lot like the Venetian in Vegas, except it's bigger and it's made in China. So I was staying in a suite. And it was a beautiful big room, but there was 2 floors, and the upper part and then the lower part. And to walk down to the lower part, there was like a couple stairs. And every time you stepped on the stairs, it was just a hollow plastic hood. It said, "You're in China. This is cheap as fuck."
Oh
Oops, sorry. But yeah, it was made in China. And when we were walking out to the ring, we were walking underneath, and just the equipment for the ducts and the air conditioning. It's just like rattling back and forth.
oh.
Yeah, it was crazy, but yeah. So I've worked. My history. I fought MMA when it was illegal, back when it was called NHB, no holds barred. We had a mouthpiece and a cup, no gloves, no equipment, no shaking, and very few rules. No biting, no eye gouging.
Did you
We
guys
didn't
have
really,
headgear?
of course not. No. But see, even so, back then, in the mid to late '90s, you were like, man, things were so different back then. Even training, sometimes you wouldn't wear shin guards, you wouldn't wear gloves, it was just, it was a slightly different era, and we were trying to figure out this whole thing, this
Yeah.
whole fighting thing. We were trying to figure it out. And yeah, so it was pretty wild. And then I don't know, I have a very strong education in biomechanics, exercise physiology, kinesiology. So when I stopped fighting because I shattered my left eye socket. Every bone in my left orbital was
Wow.
shattered during a training accident. And there was no promoter, there was no insurance at the promotion, right? I did have health insurance at the time, but uh, and it was not a real sport back then. It was this underground thing that we kind of did. So that happened in 2001, and that's when I had to stop fighting. But then after that, I started working in gyms, and I worked for a company called Eastern Athletic Clubs. We had 7 gyms. I was corporate director of personal training. Used that position, furthered my education, and that's really when I started getting really educated in biomechanics and kinesiology. And then moved out to LA and was able to get involved with some of the great gyms out here, and started working as a strength and conditioning coach for professional boxers. Hooked up with a number of professional boxers, second corner coach, S&C. Then through that, made contacts at Black House MMA, met a few MMA legends there.
Right.
And now I'm able to take all my experience, my education, my personal experience as a fighter, and really, and in an environment that is nonsense and politics free, which a lot of gyms, there's a lot of unnecessary politics and a lot of unnecessary drama, where now we keep it small and we keep it elite, and we train like professionals and dedicated, focused, and there's no drama, no politics, just training. And this is this is why we're doing so well in the sports that we compete in. and just more good things on the horizon.
I love it, and I can't wait to see you guys, at Fighters Rep 16 on December 3rd, Coach Rage. And that's a good segue. Well, at least I thought it was going to be when I said and Headgear. When I was
Yeah,
talking
right.
about the whole, you know, I,
But
for
that was a
those that,
learning curve for me too, right? Because
yeah,
over, we eventually learned the key is certain equipment is best used in training, and certain equipment is best used in competition. And shin guards are best used in training, and we found that out pretty quickly. And headgear is a piece of training equipment, period. And it really it's dangerous to use headgear in a competition setting, assuming that we're going to be knocking each other out, right? So there's like PKBs and youth events and other things that headgear might be appropriate for. And I'm not the person to talk to about that. But if we're talking about concussion, if we're talking about knockout, now that is not the environment for headgear. Do you want me to keep going?
yes.
I can. Okay. So
I just switched you to solo layout so you can keep going.
all right. So
Not solo the general, just solo
that's
layout.
right. That's right. You're going to get me in trouble. I have to see him tomorrow.
Hey,
So headgear. I want to make this concise, but I also want to make it meaningful.
yeah.
The problem with headgear is that it does not protect, it does not prevent brain injury, concussion, or knockout. And specifically, when you try and knock somebody out, we call this the button. The chin is the button.
Yeah.
And the reason that is because it creates a lever system where the jaw becomes a lever and the neck becomes an axis of rotation, or a fulcrum, if we're going to use the language of leverage.
Right.
Your brain sits inside the skull in fluid. And so what happens is the head snaps and the brain moves, but then the skull snaps back the other direction and the brain smacks the inside, or the skull smacks the brain, right? So the inside of the skull and the brain smack together, they collide. And the more your head shakes back and forth and the harder it shakes back and forth, well, that's where the brain injuries occur. That's where the concussion occurs. That snapping motion is also the mechanism of injury for something called a vestibular concussion, which is a specific kind of concussion, which is kind of worse than the other ones. But so that's the mechanism. The headgear, padding on the head, does nothing to prevent that. And in fact, it actually makes it worse. And it makes it a lot worse than it would seem. It doesn't seem like headgear weighs very much, because it doesn't. It's only a few ounces.
Right.
But when we're talking about physics and mechanics and anatomy, once we start talking about lever systems, then we have to start taking into consideration angular momentum, rotational inertia, leverage. Now that tiny bit of mass, that extra, 5, 10 ounces, I don't know how much it actually weighs, but that little bit all of a sudden becomes a whole lot. So if you think about a pool cue, right? And you think about a golf club, they weigh about the same. But a golf club hits a golf ball thousands of yards, where a pool cue only knocks a ball a few feet. And it's because of the way that you're moving the mass. With the golf club, you're generating what's called rotational inertia. And that's what happens with the brain, with the skull. When you twist the head, you're now generating rotational inertia. And then when you add the extra mass of the headgear, that mass, all of a sudden, it's not just a few ounces. It's exponentially greater. It it creates a rotational or rotating nerves, rotating mass that wants to keep rotating. Okay. So the other thing I like to talk about, going back to the example of the golf club, when pros take their golf club to the pro shop, they will alter the swing of the golfer by adding just a tiny bit, like half a gram of lead tape on a specific position on the golf club. Right. And that tiny little bit of mass, like half a gram of lead, changes the trajectory, changes the golf swing enough to make a huge impact on the game. And that's kind of what happens with headgear. Just a tiny bit of mass distributed around the skull. And now, relevant to that lever system that we talked about and that rotating mass, that tiny bit of mass now has an exponentially greater impact than it would if it were just transilinear motion, but it's not. It's rotational inertia. So that is the brain injury and the concussion. But then the other thing that happens when you snap the neck, now you have that extra mass rotating. The neck is what stops your head from spinning all the way around. And it's the soft tissue. Right. It's the ligaments and the tendons and the intervertebral discs and the vertebrae themselves. It's your cervical spine, which, kind of is an important deal. But that gets strained and sprained, and those kind of injuries. Now we're talking serious risk of paralysis, right?
Yeah.
So they're inherent dangers in full contact fighting anyway. But now we're adding a piece of equipment that creates an illusion of safety, but actually makes it much more dangerous when we're looking at these specific injuries of brain injuries, concussion, and cervical spine injuries.
And we're talking about this, and I thought this was very important for everybody to understand and listen to, because the California State Athletic Commission recently tried to propose to the International Kickboxing Federation, right, which is the only sanctioning body that's allowed to, oversee any sort of amateur striking sports in California. And the State Athletic Commission said, hey, instead of taking off the headgear, having the option to take it off after 3 fights, we're going to push it to 5 fights. Of course, there's been a lot of blowback because of that. I haven't seen anyone who agrees with that. Yeah, I mean, and I'm dealing with so many fighters, so many camps, so many coaches as a promoter. Me, myself, I mean, I look at the study done for AIBA, or using the information from AIBA, where they compared, 7,000 or so rounds of boxing with headgear versus not. And, they had empirical, data there that showed that headgear actually caused, I want to say, almost twice the concussions or head fight stopping head injuries,
Right.
So I expressed this to the commission. I've expressed it on my show. I love the way that you put it. With,
wouldn't you think like that would just be, hey, look, here's the empirical evidence. Here's the research. Here's the data. Headgear is dangerous. We shouldn't use it in this setting. It should be that cut and dry. But the problem is it isn't. And there's the perception or illusion of safety, right? Especially from the people watching it and the family and mothers of
the casuals.
The fighters.
It's the casuals,
right? But you can't fault them for not knowing, because it seems to make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, wear headgear to keep yourself safe and protected, right?
Yeah,
and they didn't.
I don't fault them for not knowing. I fault the decision making for prioritizing optics, in my opinion, right? And I expressed this opinion. I think it prioritizes optics, and I think it prioritizes, if we do force headgear even more than we did in the past, it prioritizes cuts over head injuries and concussions, over brain injury. And I know lacerations are a concern for them. That's been expressed, but and I know that headgear obviously negates a lot of the cuts that you would get
except
had
the
you not been wearing headgear.
except the ones that matter. Except
Right,
the ones that matter, right?
but what
So the
really
most serious cuts, headgear does nothing to protect
right,
those,
right.
right? I
But
don't know.
the worst part for me, is, you know, as someone who does, I don't want the liability, and I don't want to see fighters get hurt.
Right.
And my thing is, if this study with all these rounds and all this, I mean, all this empirical information, is sitting right in front of us saying that the headgear causes more harm than good to the fighter's brain. For me, I just want to get rid of it. I
Yeah.
just want to get rid of it. That's my position. It's not
Yeah.
going to happen. It's not going to happen. But in having the conversation with the commission and officials and this and that, we may have been able to prevent it from going to 5 fights. We may have been able to keep it at 3, maybe.
Maybe. Hey,
But
that's good. I didn't know that. That's great. That
it remains to be seen
and
whether they'll make the change. But they actually, I got to give them a lot of credit. I asked for a meeting for something else. This kind of had a bit of an impact on the something else I was talking to them about.
okay.
And when I brought it up, um, they were very open. They open minded. They said, George, what do you suggest?
Wow.
And I
That's
and I
great.
told and I told them, well, I think we should get rid of headgear completely, but for sure we can't change it to 5 fights. I think that's devastating aesthetically, right? Because nobody wants to watch 18 headgear fights,
Bad for
and
business.
it's bad for their health,
Yeah.
and so we'll see what happens. I want to say that my one of my
I
50
think
different
also
arguments that I
I
made
think
landed.
yeah, for kickboxing in particular, headgear is even more dangerous, I feel. You've got the peripheral vision issue, right? So you're getting hit more in boxing, but then in kickboxing, where you need to see the kicks in the feet, you get hit even more.
Right,
Uh,
right, right.
and then you've got this foam on foam kind of thing happening with the shin guards and the headgear that's creating an extra bouncy
Right, right, right. Maybe
percussion. So
like a
you're getting
ricochet or something.
yeah, right. You're getting forces on top of the forces. Uh, so yeah, but it's great that that CSAC was willing to listen and took your points into consideration. Now, that's to me that's pretty surprising, right? Because we're in California, and pretty much if there's any policy, it's bad policy, right? So it's but CSAC actually I think does really do a very good job. Me personally, uh, I've been working with them, I don't know, a decade plus. And as far as athletic commissions, I think they're one of the better athletic commissions. They're not perfect, right? They're still a government body. But the fact that they're at least listening
Yeah,
to us,
yeah, yeah,
that's I consider that a win, right? And even if they keep it at 3 fights, you know, uh,
yeah.
that I think that's also a win,
And
right?
I am playing it like it's still at 5. I mean that it's been changed to 5, right? As of right now, I'm just letting everybody know it's still 5 fights, but
Yeah,
it sounds like there's a possibility they might not go through with that, which I'm hoping they don't. So we'll just have to
yeah.
wait
And
and see.
let me. I don't know who's watching. I don't know who's going to watch this, but if any of the young fighters are watching this, don't let this issue change your career one way or the other. Fight. I don't care if they make you wear a fucking tutu. Fight. If you have to wear headgear, shin guards, whatever, just get your fights in, and don't sorry about the F bombs. Don't lie, right? So this is going to happen, George. I'm telling you, this is going to happen. If they make it 5 fights required with headgears, you're going to have guys that, oh yeah, I had this reservation fight.
The
I fought
sandbagging.
overseas. They're gonna
Yeah.
right. So then you're going to get these mismatches because you got a guy with actually 2 or 3 fights that doesn't want to fight with headgear, lying that he has 6 fights.
This is one of the arguments I presented, by the way.
Brilliant, because it's going to happen. Then the other thing that's going to happen is people are just going to go and fight MMA. They're not going to.
Or PKB.
Well, yeah.
Or promoters will just do PKB.
Right, promote. Okay, that's yeah, right.
Because
I was talking from the fighter's perspective, right? They're just gonna, and to me, man, even if you're gonna go professional in MMA, you got to do kickboxing. I don't care if you're an Olympic wrestler, you got to do kickboxing.
Yeah.
So this is one of the best venues to become a professional fighter. And I feel like, I don't know. I don't know. After what you said to me, I feel optimistic that that we're just going to keep going. That FightersRep is going to keep growing. That the SoCal scene is going to dominate. Is going to be something exciting. Something special. We're going to keep getting the knockouts. We're going to keep getting the wins. We're going to just keep growing and keep going.
It is going to keep growing. It is going to keep going and keep growing. The other issue that I had, where I basically, I proposed something to the commission that I thought would be helpful to everybody. They were wide open to it. They accepted it. They seemed to like it very much. And I think, there's a lot of stuff I do behind the scenes, right, that nobody sees. I think it's going to have a huge positive impact for the sport. And because of it, we are going to keep growing. You're going to see FightersRep Pro-Ams come back in February.
Oh, beautiful. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, you're going to see the Pro-Ams come back in February, and maybe every show from then on will just be Pro-Ams.
Yeah.
And,
Sure. Can I say a little, like, that experience of the Pro-Am fight for me and this was, I don't remember. It was a while ago. I can't keep track of I don't remember what I had for breakfast, but I can't keep track of, like, if it was FightersRep 8 or 9, but it was a while ago. And being able to have professional kickboxers get paid properly, that's exciting. That's awesome. But then also being able to have your amateur teammates, learn the way of the professional, seeing how it's done professionally, weighing in the day before, and that's an invaluable experience. And that is a rarity. Unfortunately, you don't get that in MMA. You don't.
Doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. I mean, again, I've worked professionally in all 3 sports: boxing, kickboxing, and MMA. And this is the first time I've had that experience. This is the first promotion that I've had that experience with, where I was able to bring amateurs to a Pro-Am and have them behave professionally, because now they're in line with the pros behaving professionally. Right, most of them, some of them missed weight, some of the pros, but we don't want to talk about that.
Right. Yeah, some of these amateurs are behaving better than some of the pros. But, that being said, I the vision is Pro-Ams, because I feel like, for us to get to where we want to go, to get to the top, I need to feature the most talented guys, have the best guys on the show. And I think doing Pro-Ams allows me to do that, right? Allows me to present the best current kickboxers while cultivating the best future.
Yeah. I see it that way. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And the kids that we see fighting now, and I call them kids. I'm in my 50s. I get to call everybody kids. Yeah, the young fighters that we see now, they're the ones that are going to be turning pro. We're going and we're going to be able to say, oh yeah, I knew him back. I knew him when, and we're going to see it happen. And it doesn't the it's not that far away. It's a
No.
year or two in the future, and it's like, oh, remember when he was an amateur? Remember when he was an amateur? And but we keep it in the same promotion in the same region. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. And the guys that embody the vision, right? 100% are guys like Michael, Raymond, Connor Bracken, guys that
Yeah.
guys that I'm able to keep consistently coming back every 2-3 months to every Fighters Rep show. You've seen the levels they're getting to. I'm a huge
Yeah.
proponent. I'm a huge proponent of in-ring activity, and I feel like, I mean, Bracken, when he was coming in show after show after show after show, I mean, especially as a pro at 185 pounds, I'd literally feel like I could put him in there with just about anybody. Um,
Oh yeah.
and then we've got incredible talent, with like the gyms you're talking about. Like we have the champ at 170 now, Louis Francis Canelli. I mean,
Yeah.
who at 170 pounds in a kickboxing bout beats Louis Francis Canelli, a 6'6" pterodactyl? Who beats that guy at 170 pounds? I mean, he's technically
Yep.
sound. He's a
Yep.
destroyer. He'll kick you in the liver from across the street. What do you do about a
Yep.
guy like that?
Yeah.
So,
Um,
it's all coming together, and then, of course, we're trying to expand maybe into Florida, and I think that would be very interesting, that while we're doing shows and continuing to build in California, we'll be able to build on the East Coast and maybe do shows where we bring guys over from one side to the other to fight each other. You know, that also works. I mean, we are in a world now, Rage, where we don't need to go from city to city anymore with the online streaming stuff, right?
right. Right.
We fly most of the guys in if they want to compete for us. I think that's a bit of an antiquated kind of methodology, but it still works to an extent. But we could just have our base here and maybe one other state, just fly people in. If we decide we want to expand beyond that, we can do so.
Yeah. I know some people
I
on the East Coast too.
know you do. I know you do. I know you do. But let's see here what Joseph Clay comes in the chat. He says the best part of seeing pros develop under the same banner that started as amateurs, the awesomeness of one promotion beholding them or building them up, similar to a grassroots program in other sports. And that's kind of what we're aiming to do with Michael, with Raymond, assuming they want to be kickboxers, they don't want to go into another sport. We got guys like Joshua Caldwell, Cameron Spencer. These are all guys, David Rivera. These are all guys that have had almost all of their fights or all of their fights with Fighters Rep.
Yeah.
And, depending on the one you're talking about. And, we hope to take them to that next level. Coach Rage, tickets on sale tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's going down December 3rd, man. Is there anything you want to say? I've had you on.
Well,
Excuse me, almost an hour. Anything you want to say?
oh wow. See, I get talking and I start talking about
Go,
physics. And
go for it. Go for it.
I just want to shout out Dylan Ludwig, who was one of Raymond's former. Dylan, man, he had it rough. He fought Cam Spencer and Raymond Martinez, the two top guys in his
Right,
weight class.
right. Gosh, man, poor guy. That's a tough draw.
But he is with us now, and we're separated geographically by a pretty significant distance.
Yeah.
But he makes the drive and he comes out and he's training with us, and he is also going to be he's our third team member on this next card. We don't know his fight order yet, but I just we talked about Raymond and Michael, and I just wanted to also shout out Dylan And like I said, last time we had 2 knockouts and 1 belt. This time we're going to have 3 knockouts and 2 belts.
I absolutely love the confidence, and you guys are you guys are entitled to it with the way you've been performing, and I look forward to seeing you guys at Fighters Rep on December 3rd. Of course, we'll see each other a few times between now and then. I'm sure we still gotta give Raymond his belt, which is coming in any day now. Um, we've also got the we also got the open workout, which we always do, and I'm sure we're gonna be doing some interviews and more exciting stuff. So really look forward to working with you guys some more on this one, Coach Rage. Anyone you want to shout out? Anything you want to say? Any parting words?
I think we covered everything. Yeah.
Much appreciated. Guys, be sure, again, subscribe to the channel, join the channel, get your tickets at FightersRep.com. They go on sale tomorrow, October 3rd. You're not going to want to miss it.
Actually, listen, I don't know who's watching this, like I said. You're either watching this now or you're watching it later. Subscribe to the channel, to the YouTube channel. I don't care if you're a coach, if you're a fighter, if you're a fan. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Support the sport that supports you. It's $10 a month. $10 a month, is that what I don't know. It's
$10 a month if you join. Yep.
It's a gallon of gas and a pack of gum. Support the channel.
Much appreciated, Coach Rage. Guys, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Me and Coach Rage, we're out of here. You guys be safe. Thank you, Coach.